the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
For Tennessee to now, what has changed the most in your opinion?
He's getting separation on the screening action. I think he's learning how to read the screens. He's learning how to create different tempos as he's coming off the screen, so the defense has to stay honest. But that separation factor has been huge. And I do think basketball is a beautiful team sport. And, when you got Meshack starting to provide a little bit offensively, teams are having to guard Okpara a little bit more besides the alley-oop rolls out of ball screen coverage. Gainey's playing well offensively. Zakai's doing a better job finishing at the rim and being an offensive threat. Now teams can't be in the help side as much. And so before, even when he was coming off some screening action with a little bit more opportunity to score, help defense was there to be able to bluff and take away some of that initial quick release shot that he had. And so it starts with that team offense, but he's at the end of the day learning how to play coming off screens.
Does that feel sustainable the rest of the tournament for you?
It doesn't feel sustainable for him to continue to shoot 50% for three or whatever he's shooting. But the way that he's getting open looks, I think we figured out how to do that. And in some ways, teams are going to lock in on him and make Zakai and Meshack continue to try to beat us offensively. Igor's the guy that we've said all year that he's kind of the secret sauce of the offense. And so we need Igor to step up, knowing that one of these games, one of these halves, Chaz is not going to be there to bail us out and make 3 or 4 threes. And so the offense is going to have to come from either Igor, Gainey, or the guys that we've already mentioned.
What do you think has been the most impressive part of Rick Barnes' coaching job this season in particular?
This season in particular, I think it continues to be the culture of new guys being able to adapt to the new system despite making money and playing significant roles other places, and now they're not playing the same role here. I think that's a big one. I also think the ways that he continues to show how he's adapting despite his age and tenure as a head coach. I mean, him doing some pressure against UCLA is different. The ball screen offense or the screening action offense that you've seen versus how we know he really likes to play, which is to get the ball inside first and play inside out. So he's, despite his age in the business and the years that he's been in, he's continued to be able to adapt and stay relevant to these players that are high level and can go other places. And I promise you, there's not another place in the country that's going to hold their players accountable to the rate that Barnes holds these guys accountable. But yet he continues to get top transfer talent every year, which says a lot about who Barnes is and the way that he cares about these kids and the way that they improve during their time within his program.
What do you think has the most underrated tape that Tennessee fans maybe don't talk about as much this year? Who have you seen a lot of? You're like, he just does stuff that he's good. He's just a good basketball player, and he does little things that just fans may overlook that you see.
You talking about on Tennessee's roster or elsewhere?
Tennessee's roster.
I think Okpara doesn't get enough credit. I mean, people talk about his ball screening, how he can go and catch his oops and things like that. But the way that he can defend ball screen action, the way that he can switch in late shot clock instances and for the most part keep guards out of the paint, his defensive ability has been really strong. And then he's gotten better throughout the year. I think when you saw that 45 shots from three performance against Kentucky, you saw an emphasis on Barnes and the staff getting the ball inside to Okpara. And I think he's done a pretty good job of showing up down there and giving us another look offensively.
Tennessee is a win over Kentucky on Friday from reaching the Elite Eight in back-to-back seasons. They made the Sweet 16, 3 straight seasons. I'm curious from your vantage point here, Mark, would you take, now that you've seen basically a full season and they're a game away from being right where last year's team was, would you take this year's team over last year's team, or do you still think last year's team was a better overall group?
Great question. I still think the the Dalton factor of being able to go get a shot and create a shot for himself when there's 5 seconds, 7 seconds on the shot clock or the end of the game. I think that's the separator. I do substantially like our defense more this year than last year, and the sole reason of that is our ability to go ball screen offense between Okpara and Igor or any of the other bigs or fours compared to last year when you had Adu and Awaka, who those guys were both hedge and recover guys. They could switch. Even on our ball screen offense, both of them were pick and roll guys. I mean, Adu wasn't a really pick and pop from three guy. And so I like the diversity that those two big guys give us on the offensive side and the defensive side with ball screens.
I love it. You can give Rick Barnes and his staff one piece of advice going into the Sweet 16 game against Kentucky on Friday. What is it?
Man, great question. I think I think it's got to be, we got to be the aggressor with our style of play. I know you mentioned earlier that we can't bring them down in the mud, but I think we got to be the aggressor, and then we got to be able to, in some ways, adapt. If they call it close, we get in early foul trouble. Like, we got to be willing to make some adjustments, whether that is to do some token pressure to get them sped up even faster than they want to play, so they're shooting off balance or doing other things. But I think we got to be the aggressor on both, not just defense, but on the offensive end of attacking downhill, playing inside out. And if I were to tell them that, they'd probably look at me like, no kidding, right? Like, I gotcha. They're probably dialed in on that for sure.
Funny. I love it. Nationally here, Mark, when you look around the sport, there's a lot of great coaching talent. Like, there's been a lot of hand-wringing of like, oh, with the NIL, like, we're going to lose so many legendary coaches, and Tony Bennett gone, Jay Wright gone, but there's still elite coaches all over the place, and a lot of great young, intriguing coaches getting jobs. I mean, McCollum's done a great job, and he's over here at Iowa now. You have DeVries going to Indiana. You have a lot of interesting. I mean, Todd Golden's doing a great job at Florida. You just look all around the sport, and I feel like there's a lot of great young coaching minds in college basketball right now. Who's kind of caught your eye of just like a style, or maybe just something that you've seen? You're like, that guy's gonna be really good.
Well, the biggest one for me is Kelsey at Louisville. I mean, look at the turnaround that he had at Louisville. I mean, he's won at a high level at Charleston, but that turnaround that he does, I don't know if it says more about Kelsey than it does about the previous regime and how bad they were. It's like, how could you be that bad with such a quick turnaround? But he's been tremendous. Part of it's a personal. Baroni was SIU Edwardsville, the tournament for the first time. He's a good young head coach. And look, I know he's caused some damage at places where he's been, but Will Wade going to NC State is very intriguing. I think he's a guy that's proven to win at multiple different places, and I think he'll be able to do it as much as you can. I don't know if NC State will be able to be a Final Four team like they did when you're surrounded by the Dukes and the North Carolinas, but I can tell you, being a friend of Steve Forbes and Jason Shea and those guys at Wake Forest, that adds another extra level of pressure to the Wake Forest community, because you got another high-level successful coach in Will Wade coming to NC State.
You've been around the game for a long time, Mark. You're a basketball expert, and I'm curious for you, because the game has changed so much. Especially, I think basketball in particular has changed a lot when you look at the major sports that are around North America. But obviously, a lot more threes. I think it's never been harder to be a defender in the game of basketball, just with so much switching, having some more possessions. The game's faster. It's harder on bodies. That's why I think rest is so prevalent in the NBA, because I just think it's harder. And I think it's harder for fans to see that. There's stronger wear and tear than I think there used to be on these players' bodies. But when you look at just schematically and how the game has evolved from when you first started playing, got into coaching, to now, what do you think will still be a part of basketball going forward, and what do you think is kind of like a fad, like that will fade, that we're seeing?
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.